Good evening.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Thursday, September 12th, 2024 special meeting, public work session of the Portsmouth City School Board. I now call this meeting to order. I ask you please stand now for a brief moment of silence. I now ask that Ms. Hines will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'm going to deviate a minute and ask if Ms. Hines, we'll have 2.3, attendance. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson,
Here.
Mrs. Boone,
Here.
Dr. Cotton, Mrs. Futrell,
Here.
Mrs. Hines,
Here.
Mrs. Shoemate, Mrs. Thomas,
Here.
Dr. Whitaker, Dr. Patillo,
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you. And I did get a notification that Dr. Cotton and Ms. Shoemaker will be late. Let me see. Agenda item 2.5, admission statement. Ms. Hines.
Yes, sir. The mission of the Portsmouth Public School Division is to engage all students in learning that will foster academic excellence and responsible citizenship.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 2.6 is consideration of the agenda for September 12, 2024. I entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Boone, second by Ms. Futrell. Is there any discussion?
Was there something you wanted to move around? Okay.
Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Boone,
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hines,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Dr. Patillo.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. I'll ask now that if our vice chair could lead us into closed session.
I move that the board enter into a closed meeting under the provisions of section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the following purposes: consultation with legal counsel concerning a legal matter requiring the advice by such counsel as permitted under subsection A.7.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hines. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mrs. Boone, Mrs. Futrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hines,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Dr. Patillo.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. And we'll only need Dr. Bracey for this.
Okay.
Motion been made, second by Ms. Hines. Any discussion? All right, everyone agree?
Yes.
All right.
Right. Okay, cool, brother.
Agenda item 3.3 is something that we've all been waiting for, and I'm gonna ask now is that Mr. Dr. White will lead us in our discussion for our compensation study update.
Let's go, Dr. Lee. I got some of this. Cream or something like that.
And while they're pulling it up, I do want to thank Dr. White and his staff for working with the consultant to get this done and ready for presenting to us on this evening. So I'll turn it over to him if you're ready.
Good evening, School Board Chair Dr. Patillo, Vice Chair Atkinson, School Board members, and Dr. Bracy. Tonight, we're going to share results from the composition study, which was conducted by Management Advisory Group International. Via Zoom, our presenter, Dr. Russell Campbell, Chief Administrative Officer, will be sharing his findings. Dr. Campbell, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Dr. Bracy and staff. As Dr. White said, I'm Dr. Russell Campbell, Chief Administrative Officer with Management Advisory Group. What I want to do tonight is share with you both from the teacher perspective as well as the non-instructional classifications. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Can everyone see the screen? Turn the slide share. Management Advisory Group is headquartered out of Fairfax, Virginia. We've been in this business for about 25 years and worked across the country in roughly 40 states. I've been a consultant in management and human resources for about 25 years. I've conducted about 300 of these particular type studies around the country. Most recently finished Houston Independent School District, Atlanta Public Schools, as well as DeKalb County Schools in Georgia. Our client base is all government, municipalities, counties, school systems, and law enforcement agencies. Why is the study needed? Well, we wanted to evaluate the current structure, determine when we look at the market, how competitive is the current structure with today's labor market, both for the teachers as well as the non-instructional positions. We want to look at the current structure, make sure that it promotes salary growth for the employees, make sure it addresses the internal relationships of the positions as well as the external market conditions. And then the structure that we leave behind, we wanted to make sure that it would be easy to maintain with respect to adding new positions should the board choose to create new positions, or internally if some jobs are reclassified based on changes to duties and responsibilities, all that could be easily accommodated within the confines of the system that we put together. And then in order to make a compensation system work effectively, there must be supporting policies and guidelines to support it with respect to whether you place new hires within the salary scales based on education and experience that exceeds the required minimums. How do you handle promotions with respect to compensation? How do you address interim assignments with respect to pay adjustments? So in addition to developing the study, we've also provided policy administrative guidelines based on what we consider best practices. The project was designed to establish the internal rank of the classified positions, as well as address the market competitiveness, which we refer to as external equity. Now, with respect to the teachers, we did not do an internal ranking of teacher positions. We indexed those positions directly to the market. But for the non-instructional, we internally reviewed them and ranked them based on our 14 job factors, as well as collecting market data information to create the proposed pay structure using a linear regression computer model to create the new salary schedules. We also address issues such as pay compression, where you may find that there are individuals with varying years of tenure within the organization for certain classifications, but they're all clustered around the lower end of the salary schedule. So we've addressed that issue as well. in terms of developing the new study. Someone have a question?
No, sir.
Then we came up with what we believe to be the most fiscally conservative, fair and equitable means to implement the study, understanding the state of existing resources. And so with that said, we're going to take a look here at the peers that were mutually agreed upon between Management Advisory Group staff and District Division Administration. We looked at Chesapeake Schools, Chesterfield County Schools, Colonial Heights Schools, Proctor County, Hampton City Schools, Hopewell City Schools, Newport News Schools, Northampton County, Petersburg City Schools, Southampton County, and York County Schools. Now, for the non-instructional classified, we also looked at some additional organizations, such as cities of Hampton, Newport News, Portsmouth, and Norfolk. Many of the same positions that exist within a school district or school division, particularly in the areas of administrative functions such as finance, HR, IT, procurement, also exist in most municipal governments. And so those are the municipal governments that we added to this overall list when it came time to develop the new structure for the non-instructional positions. And so, in summary, regardless of whether it's MAG or Management Advisory Group or Dr. Campbell as a consultant, the two basic principles that you must address when you develop a compensation and classification study are the internal relationship of the positions within the organization under study, and this applies to the non-instructional, not the teacher study. And then you've got to address the external equity analysis by looking at the marketplace based on an agreed upon list of peers or competitors. They can be geographically, regional, as well as interstate when you do that. For this particular study, as you saw, all the peers were within the pretty much the local region. And so once we've gotten those two sets of data, the internal review and the external, we put them together using linear regression, and we come up with the proposed salary schedules. We do various calculations to see what the impact is by budget unit and to each employee within those budget units, and then we look at the entire financial impact to the division as a whole, and then we look at the different options for implementing the study. With respect to the teacher scale needs to increase by 8.45%, which in dollars comes to about $4.9 million. Based on this teacher scale, this would put the Portsmouth School District at the top of the regional districts when it comes to compensation for teachers. Teachers are placed based on years of experience and proper step and based on their level of education, rather than using a separate mechanism to determine the incentive for the educational levels. We built that into the teacher salary scale structure. And so to implement the recommendations for the teacher salary scale are $4.9 million, which would change current payroll by 8.45%. You notice that this amount is pure salary. This does not include the cost of fringe benefits. That would need to be added on to the $4.9 million. With respect to the non-instructional or classified scale, that scale needs to increase by a little over 6%. In terms of actual annualized cost, it's $2.8 million in additional salary for the positions that are on the non-instructional classified scale. Additional commentary, the teacher scale, as I said, would lead the region. The non-instructional classified scale would increase the division from the 50th percentile up to the 65th percentile, which we believe would significantly improve the ability to recruit and retain individuals that are on the non-instructional classified scale. We provided, as I said in the beginning, a multitude of salary administrative policies and guidelines to address hiring, reclassification, and promotion-related compensation issues. The division would need to add the cost of any vacant positions, both on the teacher side and the non-instructional, if you want to get a true picture with the understanding at some point you are going to fill the majority of those positions, so you would need to add in the cost of the vacant positions as well as the cost of benefits. At the end of the day, we came into this project with the overriding objectives to improve the recruitment and retention of competent, qualified people within the division, and we believe that this study achieves that goal or goals. One of the things that I would ask as board members that I applaud you for taking the initiative to initiate a study, and now I ask that you use the same zeal and focus to implement the study. Because there certainly are some significant deficiencies within the existing scale when it comes to competitive pay. There's some internal issues as well, and the study addresses all those things and puts you at an enviable position, both on the teacher scale, #1 in the region, and then certainly in the upper echelon for the non-instructional or classified positions. And so if we can provide any additional assistance or guidance, we certainly will be happy to do that. I want to thank the staff, particularly Dr. White, for taking over the project pretty much midstream and brought it to completion under the guidance of Dr. Bracy and his leadership team. So we thank everybody that participated. If there are any questions, I certainly will be happy to address those at this time.
All right, yes, sir. Ms. Thomas?
Yes, thank you so much for the very thorough presentation. Regarding I guess my question is, if we were to look at the implementation costs does not include benefits, do we have a roundabout estimate of how much additional that would be to our overall payroll? Or is that because do we not include that cost because the teachers pay some of that cost? Like, how do we know how much more that would be to that? Okay.
Let Mr. Falk answer that.
With the benefits, you're looking at VRS as well as your FICA benefits that you would have. Depending on the level of VRS, it's different for each person, but it could fluctuate between 25 to 28%, adding on benefits on top of the cost that Dr. Campbell included in his proposal.
Okay, so 20 to 25%.
25 to 28%.
28%, okay. And we're already talking about an additional approximately 14% more increase to our overall payroll budget as it is right now. Is that the 8% and then the 6%, I'm rounding 8% and then the 6%.
But it wouldn't be 14, but somewhere.
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah, okay, just, okay.
So are you asking, trying to get a figure, or?
Just trying to get a range of like how much more the cost to what we currently run in payroll range would be.
So pretty much on top of the figures they gave for the salary itself, it'd probably be safe to add 28% to that, your overestimate of what.
Okay, yeah.
But it'll be between 25 and 28 because
Okay.
VRS would definitely vary depending on how long the person's been in VRS and
Okay.
what they're investing in that whole thing. So just doing I think a whole 28 on top of it would give you an idea what the
Okay.
estimate would probably be.
And can I ask one more question then? Because the reason I was doing the math is, I know this is a plan we're going to implement in phases, I'm guessing. We don't know that yet.
Well, no, we will present this to the city, and it's up to them how they want to try to.
Got it.
If they want to lump it in, if they want to phase it in. You know,
Okay.
we want it up front if we can get it.
Right, if we can do it all at one time. Okay.
It's up to them how they actually
Right.
want it.
Okay.
And I think, Dr. Campbell, I don't know if you can still hear me.
So on the low end.
We had that very discussion when we talked about the length of time that it would take to implement, because the longer we wait, you shared the information. Can you talk to that point?
Yes, sir. There are some occasions, I would say, of the client base that we work with when it comes to school districts, probably 92% generally implement the study the very next fiscal year. We do have a small percentage, somewhere around 18%, that resources won't allow next year implementation, so it has to be phased in. When the study has to be phased in, we recommend phasing in no longer than a 3-year period, because within a 3-year period, you could have significant internal changes based on leadership at the top or at the departmental level, and certainly externally market conditions with respect to the economy and how it's functioning certainly can change a lot over the course of 3 years. But what I've always advocated and what I've shared with the school boards around the country that I work with, if you've got the momentum behind you now, you're better served to put this issue to bed than trying to get it implemented within 1 year. Certainly, I'm not sure what the election cycle is there with the school board, but sometimes those positions can change, and where that you had consensus on doing the study and acknowledging there was an issue and trying to find a way to fix it. Well, if some of those individuals that are on board now, if they are no longer on board, and you get some new folks on, they may not see things the same way. Certainly, your competitors around you, they're certainly intending to do various things with respect to salary increases in the upcoming year. We've anticipated that, so we've built in an adjusting factor to make sure that unless they just totally get out of hand with pay adjustments, that pretty much regardless of what they do, you're going to be still at the top of the region based on the scales we put together. And so it's in your best interest to do it now. I know the anticipation among the employees is certainly palpable. When we were there, everybody knows that the study was taking place. Everyone was eagerly looking forward to the findings and recommendations. And so I think it's a positive morale booster, as well as holding on to some key people and being able to recruit across the organization. It would be in your best interest to try to get it implemented at the start of the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
It's good. Thank you.
I believe Irene was next and then Vice Chair.
No, it might have been answered, but I think it was answered.
Okay, Vice Chair.
So, thank you so much for the presentation. My question is the 4.9 million, you said that will put us at the top, is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
In comparison to, I know you did some additional research, where would that put us with Norfolk? I think that was an additional school, and Newport News.
If we added in the larger school districts, you would still be around the 75th or 80th percentile, which in our line of work, anytime your compensation system is at least at the 70th percentile, you can recruit across the board effectively with the salary scales at least at the 70th percentile. So bringing us the bigger districts does drop you down some, but around the 75th, 80th percentile with those larger districts.
Thank you.
And Ms. Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. So the costs for the instructional and the other employees, this is per year additional? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's
All
an
right.
annual cost.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at all?
And I want to make one more comment. At the request of Dr. Bracy and the CFO, we have made I will make myself available when it comes time to make the pitch to the city. If the division would like, I certainly will be there with the staff to present the study.
Definitely.
All right.
So just to follow up on Dr. Whitaker's question, you said it would be the same every year, or wouldn't it change based on the step up every year?
The cost that I've shared with you today is to implement it right now.
Okay,
Going forward, you do adjust the scales on an annual basis.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And so basically just to make sure, so this would not be a one-time infusion.
Right.
We would need the city to meet that budgetary ask every year.
Yep.
And then if we were to ask for, raises on top of that, it would be on top of what we're asking.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
Just to
question.
make sure I figured what it was.
Okay.
The continuing budget.
Continuing budget, right?
Okay.
And I really want to say to the board, it's not really anything for us to vote on, but I do recommend that we start moving on this immediately.
I agree.
Our staff has been waiting long enough for step increases.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm preparing to meet with representatives from the PEA to go over what we have with them as well. And I'm also going to start hitting a few civic league meetings and churches on Sunday to let them know where we are with this and what our request is for our teachers to be on the appropriate steps, just so the community can stay involved with what our needs are as a school division, and so they can also give their input to the city as well. So,
Are we providing an overall, just, this is where we are type of word out? Yeah, like information update?
Dr. Bracey State of the Schools is in October.
Okay,
And
okay.
I'm sure that'll be a part of his presentation at the State of the Schools as well.
Okay.
The company will come to make an official presentation if asked by the staff for city council as well, and just do our part as well as putting
Okay.
word out for that.
Do you have an idea of when that presentation is?
Staff meeting, what do you think we're going
For the city? Well, I guess that when we make the presentation, when we send the information to them formally by email, I guess we would wait to some degree for a response, and then to see if they're going to place it on the agenda for discussion. And if they do at that time, we would be prepared to come and speak to that.
And is it fair to say we can have this sent to them by next week, or in the next week? Or?
Well, if you look up here, I think it was for discussion.
Next week.
It's for approval the next meeting, I believe it was. Yeah. Doesn't it? We can get.
It doesn't have to be approved.
No, if you want to give us the consensus, no, one of the things that we're gonna add to it, as was mentioned, we're gonna look at the benefits piece, we're gonna add that to it, and Mr. Falk and HR are looking at the vacancies, because those positions are not included as well. So that'll give us a final number of what we're gonna actually be requesting.
Yes, sir. So we have a consensus for us to move on this immediately, but as soon as you all receive whatever the final projections would be, I mean, you willing to set that in an email?
Absolutely. Yes.
Instead of us having to meet about it again, and then you can just go from there. So, I guess the purpose is just to get it sorted out as easy as possible to get the train rolling.
Okay.
We already on it, we ready.
Just was clear, like, based on the proposed numbers, we will be higher than Norfolk and Newport News.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about the presentation at all?
Just, you said it is going to be, this presentation is going to be in board docs, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We're gonna, this will be uploaded.
Okay.
I just didn't want it done beforehand to be confusing, because this is not the final number.
Right.
The final number is going to be once they add in benefits. So I wanted to make sure we didn't put out a number that's incorrect.
Okay.
So I'll just keep that in mind as well. Right, and if we could, before we put any public messages out, could we wait to get an official information back, and then we could do that at that time. I don't want to confuse the community or the city on this, because it's too delicate and too important for us.
That's what I was adding in my mouth.
All right. Thank you again, Dr. White, and also thank you again, Mr. Campbell. Ms. Campbell, I'll take you to like TD Jakes. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's meant that way.
Get ready, get ready, get ready.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
All right,
Campbell.
Conversation.
All right.
How many positions do you keep?
All right, agenda item 3.4.
Excited.
Is another exciting item.
Yeah, but it's continuing.
Our cell phone policy update.
I said that for
Dr.
this.
White as well.
I was gonna say about the
Dr. White
teacher, about the staff.
and Ms. Exum and
You got excited.
Gibson.
We'll get it.
Yippee.
The smart, my smart jail time. Me being a smart phone. We had $18 million left over this year. We could have done this already.
Oh,
That's the short answer. That's why I'm sitting here quiet.
Well, while they're still getting a presentation together, I want to backtrack to agenda item 3.2. It's a roll call vote, consideration of religious exemption, case number 2024-25/03. I entertain a motion for that this time.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Boone, second by Dr. Cotton.
You
Is there any
know,
discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemake?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. Now, agenda item 3.4, I think you're ready. Dr. White.
Tonight's presentation will focus on Governor Youngkin's cell phone-free policy for schools. My team and I will share key guidance from the August 15th draft. While the final guidance won't be issued until September 16th, this coming Monday, we're confident that the information that we have here is going to uphold, or is going to be what the governor has shared, excuse me. As with anything with PPS, we focus everything on our Expedition to 2025 and our graduate profile. We try to make sure that this is our guiding light. So next, I have my team coming up, and they're going to be sharing what the policy looks like.
Thank you again. Again, I'm Rosalind Exum, and I am the Director of Elementary School Leadership. I'm going to be discussing the elementary school cell phone-free education policy on the elementary level. Cell phones and personal communication devices will not be used by elementary students within the school building during the instructional day. Students must use any school-based communication tools or platforms to communicate non-emergency needs with their parents. Cell phones and personal electronic communication devices will be used. They're allowed to use those on the school bus to and from school. Cell phone and personal electronic devices may not be used en route to offset activities like field trips or any school-sponsored events. Cell phones will be stored in students' backpacks, in their coat lockers, or for our sixth grade students, because they are departmentalized and they change classes, they will need to keep their cell phones in their backpacks behind their chairs during the instructional day. When teachers leave their classrooms, they will need to have those classrooms locked, so we won't have any problems with cell phones being confiscated or stolen. And I'll be followed by Dr. Gibson.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm Jamel Gibson. I'm a new kid on the block. So. Going to talk from secondary perspective. Little slight difference, however, middle school is more aligned to the elementary implications or implementations that we have focused on. So they can't use it during bell-to-bell instruction. Again, they have to store their items, so it should not be visible. And then it is permissible either before school or after school, or with students that are involved with sports after school for middle school. In case of emergencies, parents need to call the school, and we have made that message clear to principals that they are to permit kids to make those phone calls, or vice versa if a parent needs to get in touch with a child. And so cell phones, again, the electronic devices cannot be used like if they're on field trips or if they're already at school and they're going someplace else like that. We want to stay consistent with the cell phone use policy. Athletic events that we spoke about, again, they are permitted to use the cell phone, again, with the permission of the accompanying adult. And they will be stored in backpacks. High school, we tried to give a little bit of autonomy, but still being aligned with Executive 33. So again, bell-to-bell instruction, phones are not permitted. They should be stored and out of sight. Again, it is permissible during or before school, after school, on school buses, even within the school building, before bell-to-bell instruction starts on school grounds. Again, it cannot be used if they are in a field trip situation, unless there is field trips that extend beyond the state, so on and so forth. And then again, athletic events, because there are a lot of after-school athletic events, we are allowing high school students to use their cell phones. I'm going to turn it back to Ms. Exum to discuss the offenses.
The consequences, the first offense, students will be given a verbal warning, and the teacher will inform the parent and record the incident in the student log, which is held within the Power School system. The second offense, upon request, the student will relinquish the personal communication device to an administrator, not a teacher. The teacher will inform the parent that the cell phone can be returned once a meeting has been set up with an administrator. The third offense, they will have an in-school suspension. The administrator will contact the parent. The fourth offense, the student will receive an out-of-school suspension between 1 to 5 days, and the administrator will contact the parents. As far as teacher and staff members' expectations for cell phone, free education, administrators and teachers and staff members will also reinforce the policy. The teachers are required to not confiscate the personal communication devices that are in violation of regulation. Teachers shall not have students use personal communication devices or cell phones dealing with their instruction. They have to use the school-based devices and school-based apps. Teachers and staff members are expected to conform to the same policy, not being on their cell phones during the instructional day as well. Exemptions to this policy are for students who have IEPs, those students who have 504 plans that might need to use a blood glucose monitor for health reasons, and these allowable exemptions will be written in their plan, the IEP, and in the 504 plan, or a health care plan. And these plans will have to be approved by the school nurse and our director of student services or a designee by the superintendent.
So there are many benefits of putting down the cell phone. And again, mental health is a crisis that we are all working toward. We want to make sure that our kids are in a good state of mind when they come to school so that they can learn what they need to learn. So studies show, again, that the less time they spend on the phone, the better it is for their mental headspace. Suicide prevention is very important as well. We want to make sure that we have very minimum, if none at all, suicides going on as a result of cell phone or any other reason for that as well. And then, again, it helps kids to be engaged in the classroom. And that's important. They're not worried about who's texting who or meeting up where. They can focus right in that English class or that math class, whatever the case may be, so that they can get the information that they need to be successful. So SBAR codes, or student behavior and administrative response codes, these are just how codes are reported to the state. So it just gives you the levels and then what the actual codes could be.
So we're opening up to questions.
Okay, but before we do, I just want to, I want to set the tone that the board, we do have to approve a cell phone policy, but we must adhere to the governor's executive order. And I want the public to know that this is really not a school board decision. We're complying to an executive order. So whatever changes or recommendations we have to make sure that it falls in line with the executive order of no cell phone use during instructional time.
Right.
That's from the time the school starts to the time the school ends. So anything in between, it should be no cell phone use, according to the executive order. All right, so start the vice chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Understand this is executive order, understanding it's law, just need some clarity on our part. I see that high school students can use their phones during transport to extracurricular activities, so middle schoolers cannot when they're going to their games.
For athletics, they can after school. We're talking about like field trips.
Okay, because it didn't say that middle schoolers could use theirs on here. Did it? Yeah. Okay, I may have missed it if it did.
And we will recheck that just to
Okay,
confirm.
maybe I missed it. Students en route to
Presentation is
from all sites.
board docs?
School-sponsored events. It don't say.
But athletic events,
Says athletic
sporting
events, they
events, they will be able to.
Okay, because that's the high school part. Okay, I
she
missed
has
that.
it.
Okay, missed that. Next question was, who is liable in the event where we're in possession for any damage to the phones? If it's broken, if it's stolen, does that liability fall upon the school system?
No. And we shared that with the families, that if they bring the cell phones, it's their responsibility.
Yeah,
That's good.
Okay.
That
That's
will
the
be
same as it's
shared
always been.
and has been shared.
If you bring it to school, it's your choice.
Okay. And then the, I guess, because I know other board members have questions, the school-based communication technology, what is that, and is that consistent with elementary, middle, and high school?
I'm sorry, I was looking at Dean.
School, what is that?
So it's any event,
Oh.
That's the front office.
That's the office phone.
Yeah.
so the office phone?
Yes.
Like the actual.
So that would be considered the school-based technology. If I, as a parent, have to communicate to my child, I would call the office?
Yes, you call the office.
So everyone in elementary, middle is aware that that is the communication contact?
Yes.
Because I know personally the office phones have been busy a lot. So I guess, is there a backup form of communication in the event a parent may have to, reach out to their student?
If it's an emergency situation, they could come to the school.
So as of right now, we have the telephone call to the school and them coming up to the school. Other than that, we don't have anything else.
Other than the office line?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't they still have access to reach out through some of the,
Dojo.
yeah, right.
Okay.
But that's what I was saying, that when they say in school, devices, that includes Chromebooks using Dojo, correct?
Class stuff,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
But that goes, I'm sorry, I don't want to skip over. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what I do is we'll just go down the line. I think everybody.
I do not.
You now, okay. Ms. Boone? You down? Okay.
I do, but
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
yeah.
I think everyone in this room dealt with not having a cell phone, except for you. You couldn't even afford a cell phone.
Sure could.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is what it is. We got it here. That's all I have.
Start working.
Consequences, do we have to put students out of school for the fourth offense?
My response is, and this is coming from me, but I think it's coming from my team. If we've gotten to the fourth offense, then it's time. Because we've already given them a first a chance, a second chance, and a third chance. Now, once we get to the fourth chance, it's defiance now.
The reason I ask that is because we know that cell phone use has become a form of addiction. And it's almost as though you're punishing young people for something that's so prolific in society that some people have become addicted to it. So that's my concern, is that you're putting people out of school for something that's possibly a form of addiction in terms of using the cell phone. And then my other question is, what about Apple Watches? So they have to take those off as well. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm fine with the policy. My only question was, I think on one of the second offense, it says the teacher is not required to confiscate, it's the administrator.
Yes.
So I'm always concerned, I think we discussed at our retreat, just the concern over if you have a student that's defiant about turning over their cell phone or property. Just concerned over our administrators being put in that position. I definitely, do we have like,
What we have advised is that they don't get into that kind of argument.
Okay.
If the kid doesn't want to release it, just write it up.
okay, so the parents still, everything still goes, even if they don't release it, they're still going to get the parent contacted and so forth. Okay. And then I'll just say, I understand what you were saying, Dr. Whitaker, but I've also heard from like just teachers that are just spending too much instructional time asking students to put their cell phones up, and so they, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, great presentation. I think it's just, one of those things we just don't have a choice about. So, as we move forward with this, the only thing that comes to mind for me is there has been horrendous events happening at schools prior to now with the use of cell phones, where children didn't have cell phones. I remember one of the first acts that happened, nobody had cell phones back then, and the same scenario happened. Parents were notified, and the schools handled it just fine. And so I know that that is some of the concerns that I've been getting, and as I've been sharing with families in the community, and I'll share again here, that we all have protocol in line to handle things like that. And so, we're not saying they can't come at all. They just have to be restricted. And although, yes, to Dr. Whitaker's point, it has become an addiction, there are many addictions that people have that aren't good for them, and this just happens to not be one of them. One of the slides mentioned the 504 plan. And so I just wanted to devil's advocate that, just to say, if I decide I want my kid to have it, and so let's get the 504, do we have anything there where we can, have we looked at that per se, or is that just something we just can't touch at all?
Yeah, you can't.
Dr. Bracy or whomever.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but as a parent, I can really go to the doctor and say what I need to say to get one. So I guess once they do it, it's just done. It's nothing really, it's out of our control.
But still, we would have to, the school nurse supervisor would have to look at the plan.
Got it.
Along with the director of student support services or designated by the superintendent to even say that that's a valid reason.
Got it.
To have.
Yes. Good.
That'd be a lot of
That's what I wanna
for a doctor to put his license on line for diabetes.
Yeah.
Diagnosis.
Right.
And if we could,
I just wanted us to say that.
would like to just
publicly.
share something in regards to that.
Good evening.
Good
So
evening.
I oversee our 504s for the division, so it would be a team-based decision, just like anything else. Where we're looking to maybe have those exemptions are like the example that we gave there, and not so much our anxiety type
That's what I wanna
pieces.
know.
But again, team-based decisions, individually based, but ideally not widespread in terms of those exemptions.
That's Ms. Schlichty, our school counseling director.
Yes.
And,
Very important
from
job.
the student support services side, because I do work closely with health services and homebound, I'm used to knowing what some of the doctors are requiring, and for mental health, you never see anything in those plans saying that one of the accommodations for the student is to be able to have their phone with them.
Yeah.
So it has to be realistic.
Okay.
With the glucose, the phone is the monitor.
Yeah.
So you're using your phone as your medical equipment.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you, Dr.
We
Flowers.
thought this thing through. That's right. PPS shines.
Do
Let's
you have
do it.
any other? Oh, sorry, Ms. Hines, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I appreciate this, and what I'm going to say is my son, who is not in the public school setting but in a private school setting, they started the year with a no cell phone policy from the jump. The transformation I've seen in my son by not having it all day, it's I'm going to say it's a very positive trend. You know, we're more apt to conversation. We're more apt to talk about the day. We're less worried about this. As a teacher, I'm going to say thank you for starting it day one, because most places have not. And so while we fight habits that are forming in our classroom, knowing what's coming just makes it, you just kind of look at it as a tsunami. You know, I mean, you see the water backing off the beach, you know what's coming and how far can you get away from it, and you really can't when you're the one that's standing in front of 27 kids. So I just want to say thank us and thank the team that's standing behind me for starting it for day one and setting that expectation. My next question is going to be, and I don't know this because I haven't been here for a while, but how locked down is our Chromebooks? Because if the kids can't use this, they're going to start jumping proxies. They're going to start with different IPs or, you know, virtual network, VPNs or whatever.
They're doing that now.
They're
trying to do that.
So my question is, not necessarily for the team behind me, but for Dean, are you ready for the onslaught of what's coming?
My student rep.
They're still trying to
I'd love to hear from
it
you on
in
that.
that same fashion.
Okay.
So I agree with you. They're going to start using that to communicate more than before.
Right.
But our processes, to me, I don't see a change in volume.
Okay.
Because our systems are in place already.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that
it can't happen.
Nothing is perfect.
Right.
We find them, we mitigate. It's just it's rinse and repeat, rinse
Right.
and repeat. So we work with the schools to get information. We use that intel and the equipment and the algorithms we have within that equipment to try to mitigate that and get ahead of it.
Right.
So, but I think we're ready.
Okay.
Dean said he not new to this. He true to
I mean, I get it, but you know, when you go from 10% of your kids that are using this as their mainstay to 100% of your kids that are using this as that mainstay.
So the nice thing is we don't have to touch. So say there's 10 kids that are doing it now. We don't have to touch those 10. We do it from a central position. If there are 100 doing it, we still don't have to. We don't have to touch those 100. We make the change where we are. But thank you. That's a good point.
Okay.
I did want to give a chance for our student rep.
I was just about to ask
Have
to get your point
about the cell phone policy that we have.
So like right now, as you were just saying that people are going to start using the Chromebooks now. I know for a fact plenty of students that's already got a hacked Chromebook doing stuff on whatever Instagram and stuff on their Chromebook, and thus they just see this as like getting their phone taken. They don't see it as don't bring their phone to school because they have no point.
Correct.
If they have internet at the school, why bring their phone if they can do more on their Chromebooks? That's how students are using it right now. And now you see people not even bringing their phone to school. They're just hacking their Chromebook. And right now, I know at Norcom, our administration and our security are not on the same level. It'll be your first offense and you're getting 3 days in ISS. But your administration sees you and they're just telling you to put it in your pocket. Good at that. So, I don't know.
So
That's good feedback. I love
It's
to
not
hear
consistent
that.
in schools at all.
And that definitely be a Dr. Bracey issue with. You know, that's good information. No.
Great feedback. Dr. Bracey got your back.
And I think that's one of the things that we've talked about in here as far as discipline across the board, you know, keeping discipline consistent not only from within a building but across the buildings because kids talk, you know. So.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Devontae, that was useful information.
Yes, it was. Very good.
Send us, get them some security for us.
He dropped no names, though. He dropped no names. My boy no snitching.
The cell phone policy is bell to bell. So who's to say right after school, final bell hits, somebody posts on Instagram how to hack your Chromebook. Simple as that. Everybody got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because you guys have access to the Chromebooks. You don't have access to our phones. So if we post something on our phones, you're not going to see it. But if you post something on the Chromebook, that's when you get a ding for it. So what's stopping them from just going home, doing it, coming back? Because you don't see it from their perspective.
at
Right,
all.
and I agree. I mean, and there's nothing
That's
we
why
can
you the
put
student
forward
rep.
that'll be perfect to detect everything. But we just do the best we can when it happens, when situations arise.
Yeah.
Yep.
And work that. But no, thank you. That was great information, Mr. Shoemaker.
So I think what you stated spoke volumes because I think parents need to hear that. Parents are very concerned about emergency. These kids are using it for Instagram.
Correct. Mhm. Period.
Okay? Again, just like Dr. Cotton stated, when I was in school, we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
You called the front office. So the concern that parents have, and what I've been asked, well, my child can't take a cell phone at all. How am I going to get in contact? Well, it does state that your child can take it.
Correct.
They can use it before and after school. The issue is, if there's something that you need to talk to your child about, you should be going through the teacher or administration. Unless it's an emergency, then we have to do what we have to do. Again, I'm a mother that has 2 kids that are in high school, and let me tell you something, okay? Even as a board member, I had to go up to school to talk to one of my son's teachers about him using his cell phone during class last year. It happens, and I know it's an issue, but I think this would be very beneficial because these babies aren't paying attention. Let's just be real. They're not paying attention in class. They're doing everything but paying attention to what the teacher is saying, and it's frustrating the teachers. And you have parents coming up to us as well as teachers saying, my child doesn't know A, B, and C. Well, baby, your child doesn't know A, B, and C because they're not paying attention in class. So I love the fact that you were very honest. It's not about emergencies. It's about these babies want to get on social media. So I think that's great for the parents to hear. Yes, you will still be able to get in contact with your child, but it goes deeper than that. We can't say that we're trying to provide the top level of education if our babies aren't even paying attention and they're distracted. They have enough things to be distracted about. A cell phone shouldn't be one of them.
Correct. Absolutely.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify when you said that y'all would get a ding for what's on your Chromebook.
Because I know for for us when we had our little meeting, they said like I don't know what system y'all use, but like say you search something in the Chromebook, it'll
got
pop
Word.
up. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I personally don't know the name of it. I don't know.
Gaggle.
That,
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
We got you.
That's what I was talking about.
On Chromebook, and
Gotcha.
she got D.
So I guess then, because we have geniuses that could possibly jailbreak the Chromebook and download WhatsApp, which they can make phone calls and send texts. So in that case, if they were to make a phone call or send that text, would that be form of disciplinary action, or it wouldn't because it's not technically a cell phone?
It could be.
Or cell phone use.
Yeah.
It's a violation of the AUP.
Yep.
I was one violation right now.
Yep.
Multiple.
I just want to put it out because this is all the things that parents are doing. And it can happen. You can jailbreak your Chromebook and add WhatsApp and communicate. So in that case, a student would have a violation if they have WhatsApp on their Chromebook?
We'd have to speak with that as a team because we haven't spoken on that yet. So that's going to be a discussion that we have.
When they'll already be violating their agreement.
Well, actually, yes,
Yeah,
but
already a
I thought you were referring to putting it in the policy itself, writing it up in there.
They already signed it.
Yeah, they signed an agreement to use
Okay,
this when they first got it.
So that would count under the violation. And then I guess my final question, because this situation is bound to happen, in an event of a fight, students recording, let's say it's 15 kids recording, will every student get a violation that is identified with their cell phone?
Absolutely.
That's it. Thank you. It's public.
Dr. Bracy said absolutely.
That was one of the first things because we were dealing with all of for the last few years. Fight breaks out, parent sees what's been posted, but miss who actually started the fight because it takes you time to whip out your phone, get the video going. You miss who started it. But then by the time we show the real deal, they've missed it. But also in that video, we see 6, 7 people holding up their phone video and fight. So if we identify you, that's your first, or if that's your second, third offense, you'll be dealt with accordingly.
And I just asked Dr. Brace, I try not to put too much on Lauren. I know she's Superwoman already, but if there's something creative we could come up with to put out that this policy is being approved, some type of no policy campaign to put out, policy campaign to put out would be great. That can be shared and put out, that would be great for that.
Well, related to that, one last question. Have we kind of put out information to parents about why, like the suicide, the attention stuff, like why this is important? Is that,
mental health.
has that been like communicated to parents?
Yes, the principals, when they had their open house with the parents, they discussed that, and they discussed the cell phone policy.
Something out.
Okay, but like something on our,
So if we didn't make open house, we didn't get it.
on our social media, like like why is this important?
When Dr. Bracey put out his, I don't know about that, it wasn't a policy, but his superintendent
Back to school message.
It stated something about according to the governor's executive order while we were doing it.
Oh, it did, okay.
But like, I know there's an executive order, but there's like research about why this is important to do. I'm talking about that type of information.
And that's actually on the website, and it talked about the average student spent over 3 hours or more on their phone, and how it leads to suicide and how it leads to depression and anxiety. And it's actually on the website under the policy, and you can click up there and it'll let you know the recent studies. And so all that's mentioned up there.
Okay. She wants it sent.
I want like this here to help.
Right.
Like we had like a
campaign.
campaign.
Yeah, that's what I was just
rollout.
saying. If we could do some type of campaign rollout about this would be great.
Yeah.
That's definitely neat. Oh, I just wanted to be clear, this is something that isn't coming. It should already be across the board at every single one of our schools, correct? Because I've been hearing differently. This should be already implemented across the board at all of our schools.
Oh,
Yes.
Or is it in phases coming?
No, it's already.
Should be already.
Yes, because I got a letter from both my kids' schools.
It's not.
It was put out day one.
Okay.
I mean, if you know if schools are not doing it, then Dr. Bracey needs to know so he can speak to that
Absolutely.
administrator. Well, they can speak to that administrator.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions in reference to cell phone policy?
Hey, great job with the order.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While we were speaking of the marketing campaign, I do want to just congratulate Dr. Lauren Alaska.
Yeah, national.
And I want to correct you, it's not just national. It was only one of 4 finalists in North America
Oh, wow.
to receive
Come
this
on, Doc.
recognition. So we're excited and waiting for her when she travels to Little Rock, Arkansas to receive the
Yes. Woo! BPS shine. Shine on.
Yes,
Doc.
Lord.
And I'm excited because it's a recognition for her, but it also brings great recognition to the school division
Absolutely.
as well. And she represents us very well and keeps us well informed and keeps us looking good in the public eye. So thank you, Lauren, for all that you do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 3.5 is discussion item you should have in your board docs the 2025 school board meeting dates. And those are all there. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Can we get back to the community meetings? I know after COVID, we haven't had any, so I would like to see some of these dates to where we're back in the community with our meetings.
Okay, we can. I can get with Dr. Bracey and see if we can check schools that are not having any kind of work done to them. We can try to schedule those out maybe once a quarter like we used to, or maybe 2 a year. At most.
I think it was 2
another
a
reason
year.
why we didn't go back to it was because it's a lot. It was a lot on staff to pull that to pull that together. So I'll get Dr. Bracey to see what dates and how often we can do it, to do that and see what will be the best setup. Maybe it might be at schools that have new
used to do one in the
AV equipment and systems already in them, such as the high schools, to do it. So we'll get with the staff, let him get with the staff to discuss what will work best as far as which locations. I know we have, like, I think new AV in all the high schools that may be the best options that you have to travel. You used to have to travel with sound and audio and video and all that stuff. So we'll see. Yeah. All right, thank you.
So are we voting off on approval?
No, it's just
No, these are just dates.
It's just dates, yeah. All right. If there are no other questions about the dates, we'll move on. All right.
Are we voting tonight?
No, school board just meeting dates. Just
Gotcha.
3.6 is a roll call vote consideration of a resolution for reappropriation request for 2023-24. Those are actually in your board docs, and I would just like to say I kind of met during our finance meetings with Mr. Falk and Dr. Bracy, and I kept saying, we want this number to be as low as possible based on and considering what we had as far as vacancies. The amount you see of $9,096,246, almost $7 million of that were vacancies. So those positions that were not filled. And I want that to be clear so the citizens can hear that we were spending the money that we have and we spent wisely, but we did not fill almost $7 million worth of positions and vacancies, which is the same for school divisions across the country. So I wanted that to be clear. And then the almost $3 million that was left, as you will see, for the other funds we're trying to use to complete capital projects, I believe at Churchland Academy, correct?
Yes. About 3.9 million.
3.9, right.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for Mr. Falk and in reference to that, you can ask those now.
Did you mention
Oh, I'm sorry. Of the almost $7 million that we had in vacancy savings, we're putting those funds back into the staff in the form of a bonus. And I believe our liaisons have discussed that in their liaison meetings, that and the city council liaison stated they had no problem with us taking staff money that was left to put back into the staff. So the plan is to give them a bonus with the money that was left from vacancy savings.
What's the bonus? Yeah.
That amount, I think it was the same as we had left before.
2,000.
2,000. That's with us. That's with us covering
Benefits.
taxes and benefits. So they see the actual $2,000.
Okay.
2,000 full-time, 1,000 part-time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chair, for saying that, because I was gonna say publicly, if we just got out of the session with Mr. T.D. Jakes saying we were gonna need more money, and then now we're saying we have this just sitting, then that's what I was gonna say. How do we justify for people who don't hear?
Right.
So thank you.
And these funds, remember, are reappropriation for one-time use. So the money we need for the step increase has to be continuously funded in the budget. But we did want to use, being that we had these monies left on positions we did not fill, it's only right to put it back into our staff. So, and to show our appreciation, we didn't want to spend it anywhere else, but make sure they're appreciated for the work they do.
Absolutely.
When will those bonuses go out?
Well, we have to we have to approve this,
Okay.
give it back to council, and reappropriate, give it back, and then they would do that as soon as they can get it for that.
Okay, sorry. One quick question for the amount, the construction or CIP projects that were happening for the library remodels division-wide. We had already started those. So is this like additional?
Those are encumbered funds.
Okay.
So we have about 9.1 million in encumbrances that are already encumbered.
Okay.
So they've already been encumbered. Those projects are in the works.
Okay.
But we have to ask City Council
for
reappropriation because they did not finish
the work
at the end of the school year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Hines?
Thank you. Can I ask what's going on at Churchland Academy?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've got 3.9 million in a CIP for Churchland Academy. What are we doing there?
Roof project.
Oh, there it is right there,
Right.
sorry.
Roof
I
project.
skimmed over it.
That roof
Does that
is
include HVAC or just a new roof?
Just roof. That's in desperate need of a roof.
Okay.
All right. So you do have it there, and I will entertain a motion at this time for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Shoemate, second by Ms. Futrell. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Miss Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone? Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemate?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 3.7 is consideration of resolution for reappropriation request for a grant fund budget. Of course, these are grant funds that have to be reappropriated and used for the necessary grant usage for that. And I entertain a motion for that at this time.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Boone, second by Ms. Shoemate. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Oh, I have a,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I have a question. It says in here 5.8 million for elementary HVAC.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are we going with HVAC? And the only reason I keep asking the question is not that I have anything against Churchland Academy. A roof is a roof, I get it. But we did have that issue with Churchland Elementary and the mold that prevented staff from being in the building for a couple of days. That can be addressed with an updated HVAC, with better roofing, better windows. If we can't get a new school building, we've got to put money into that particular building. So I'm just wondering with the 5.8 for elementary HVAC, is that one of the ones that's on the list to start improving that building if we're not going to get a new building for that particular site?
Well, that's one of the reasons that we're working, trying to address that with the moisture and with the building. Dr. Simmons and I, Mr. Falk, have been looking at that. One of the reasons that we're trying to work to improve that with Johnson Controls is that we know that we're in the preliminary process of the K-8 school, which would replace Churchland Elementary. So what we don't want to do is to put a significant amount of money into that school when we know that we're going to be moving out, hopefully, let's say, within the next 3 to 4 years. Now, I say that with some confidence because we've already had one meeting with the city and the architect that's going to be doing that. So we're already in the preliminary phases. We've got another meeting coming up, I think next week, I think it is. So this project is moving. The money has been allocated for planning. So we feel good about it. So right now, we're trying to mitigate the issues that we're having at Churchland Elementary to be able to move forward so that we don't have to put that heavy of an investment there when the momentum is moving forward with the new school.
Okay, because that's been in limbo for...
Yeah, so now we're actually
Okay.
moving with it.
Okay.
Right. Thank you so much. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Miss Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemate?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Agenda item 3.8 is a roll call vote, consideration of resolution for a reappropriation request for our risk management fund budget. Of course, that is including benefits, health insurances for staff that needs to be reappropriated. And I entertain a motion at this time.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Boone, second by Ms. Shoemate. Is there any discussion?
Don't sound so excited, Ms. Boone.
Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam
Babies.
Clerk.
Miss
She going down.
Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemate? Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Agenda item 3.9, consideration of
We gotta
resolution,
go.
reappropriation request for our tech school fund. I entertain a motion at this
Move for approval.
Second. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Hines, second
Right
by Ms.
there.
Futrell. Was there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemate? Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. And Devontae's looking like, what is wrong with you? Agenda item
Say your
3.10.
prayers, Jeff. Say
Consideration
your
of
prayers.
resolution for reappropriation request for
We
food
all
services
refuse
fund
at this
budget. And I entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion by Ms. Boone, second by Ms. Shoemate. Is there any discussion?
Oh.
Ms. Atkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Food services bus conversion, what is that? Are we converting a bus to a food truck?
No, it's actually a bus. You want to explain what it is, Dr. Simmons?
So it was.
Vice Chair Atkins is gonna love it. I was hoping it would be a surprise to you.
No, I read.
No, I mean, surprised that you really like it.
So it was an idea that the board chair gave us in our operations meeting. So we've taken one of our old buses out of the fleet and converted it into as we'll say, a Meals on Wheels bus, where we have just redid the entire bus. And so we named it the grilled cheese. And so we'll be able to put it out in the community in terms of, and so similar to, I think what you all saw, whatever they're doing in the cafeteria.
Yeah, I was gonna send that.
Students will be able to board it in terms of, and whatever, we eating cold cuts or sandwiches or whatever. So we put a lot of time and effort in it. It's almost ready to go in terms of, so we're excited about it.
I'm definitely excited.
We get the first sandwich, baby.
And the bus are actually, if able to staff it, in other counties when visiting across the state, the bus actually goes like in the summertime.
Okay.
And they go to neighborhoods with children who may have food scarcity. They can actually come on the bus in a safe environment, sit down at the table and chairs on the bus and eat.
Oh, that's awesome. Come on, PPS.
So when it's finished, I was hoping y'all could do a tour of it when it's finished. But she like to spoil surprises. So.
I read it.
The rest of us knew what it was.
I mean, I read it too, and I was like, it's a taco truck, right? So I was like, it's a taco truck. And it's a great idea. The grilled cheese is a bit cheesy if I'm going with the cheese wagon. I gotta say it. Sorry. My question was, with the bus, is there going to be a schedule of neighborhoods that it goes to? Because there's no way that one bus can hit all of our places that would benefit from this. So are we going to put out a schedule? It's a rotational basis.
I mean, right now they're just trying to get the bus outfitted.
Okay.
And then they have to come up with a plan on how they're actually going to utilize it during the school year and during the summer. And then I'm sure they'll come up with a schedule though, to do that.
Okay, sounds good.
It'll be heavy rotation during the summer.
Right.
Okay. I love that. Yeah.
And just one follow-up, since we on food services, did we ever get a date regarding the company coming to do a presentation to the school board and what that cost would be if we did that? The chef.
Right. We will. I'll have that for you. Yeah, because we did make contact, so we do have that. I think the new food services coordinator. Right. Yeah. So he's made that contact.
Okay.
One more question, I'm sorry. With the unencumbered funds that we have in food services, are there any cafeteria needs as far as like cafeteria tables or cafeteria equipment that is going to be paid out of this?
In prior years, as we've had money before, we've looked at equipment needs, say serving lines, any of our ovens, we've done a lot with our freezers or walk-in freezers, things of that nature. You cannot buy cafeteria tables with food services money though, by USDA law, believe it or not.
Wow.
Believe it or not, you cannot use it for cafeteria tables, so that's something that we'd have to find another funding source for, but yeah. But it's equipment.
We did use some of the ESSER funds to replace old freezers and things that sold in the cafeterias just this past summer. So they did that.
Okay. Because I know you can't use it outside of the cafeteria, you know, so it's like you would think that cafeteria tables would be a part of that. Okay.
All right, and so we do have a motion and a second. More discussion now. Do a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemake?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Agenda item 3.11, consideration of contract electrician and electrical services. I entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Hines and it was seconded by
Anybody?
Ms. Boone.
Yeah.
Do we have any discussion?
Mm-mm.
Seeing none, Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mrs. Schumate?
Yeah.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. We do have the agenda for agenda review for the September 26th meeting. Of course, if you have any additions you'd like added, and we'll try to get something with the chef on that, some feedback that was next agenda item as well.
Thank you.
Please contact myself and Dr. Bracy. We can have those items added. Agenda item 3.13 is subcommittee reports. Do we have any reports at this time?
No, but I do have
okay.
Well, I don't have a report. I just had a question real quick on the previous item.
On the agenda.
The agenda.
Oh, go ahead.
Are we going to get an employee transaction report for
And,
the next?
yeah.
Okay, okay. I just didn't see it really quick upon looking, but okay.
It would be under
Early.
Close in the early. Close in the summer hiring, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Question.
Thank you.
On the agenda. Are we, I did a brief glance over and I don't remember seeing it earlier, the rezoning issue that we talked about at retreat. We said we were coming back sometime in September with that, since it's not tonight. Yeah. If it's not tonight, is it next meeting?
So we do have some items, let me explain them since we're here, that was my decision. We do have some items reported back from the rezoning study. I did not want to discuss that until after November 5th.
Okay.
I did not want to make the rezoning of our students a political issue. I wanted it to be a clear, conscious decision and nothing that can be used in a political arena. So
For or against, or,
Right.
okay.
So
On either side.
Right.
I got you.
So I'd rather just put that on the agenda after the 5th if you all will allow me to make that decision for you.
That's fine. You the chair. All right, chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick report. The interns, this is for the MWBE committee. The interns finish out their summer, so we officially finished the first summer round of the 45 interns. That was a huge success for the interns for the summer. Also, our classes have started at TCC for the businesses and nonprofits. The first half is for new businesses and new nonprofits, and then the second half would be the master class, which will start in January. So we launched that off. So just wanted to update the board with that. Under corporate sponsorships, I'm still trying to figure that out so it's not dormant and not an empty committee. But I guess I can speak to this, that the Finney Family Foundation donated $7,000 to IC Norcom. Those funds will go to the television production department, where it will include purchasing new equipment for the studio, green screens, furniture, anything. They created a wish list and they funded that wish list. So,
Congratulations. Thank you.
Very cool.
All right. We did have an operation technology meeting. I just want to give a brief update of that. Summer activities that it did include, they replaced most of the BenQ interactive panels in our classes in our schools over the summer. We did have student Chromebook distribution that was distributed to rising 7th graders, and they replaced Chromebooks in our high schools. Projects that are kicking off. All schools are receiving new fiber optic cable replacement in all the schools, which will improve our Wi-Fi capability in the schools. Elementary and pre-K are receiving Wi-Fi upgrades, and we're replacing laptops for all of our elementary teachers as far as technology. There's a lot of auxiliary updates, and I can email y'all this if you like. But we did have a question about the Manor High School for the theater renovation that is complete. Norcom's bleacher system replacement is complete. Inside and outside lighting for all PPS buildings are continuing to be converted to LEDs now as well. And bathroom upgrades were complete at IC Norcom and Churchland High School. And all of our schools now have emergency number over all the entrance and exits to enhance and increase school safety in case of an emergency as well. With that, and they've been busy, a lot more, so I email it to you all so you all can have it As far as the finance meeting, you all received the report based on our reappropriation request, and also the compensation study is all that we reviewed in our finance meeting. The only question I did have, and I can send it to you all as well, is for our doors, classroom doors in our schools. Do we have them so they lock automatically when they shut? Or do they have to be locked with a key? Or how's that work?
Most of them have to be locked with a key, and to be honest, it just depends on the building. As you know, some of our buildings are older buildings, so it just depends on the building.
I only ask, and I know we have school safety people, and I only ask because with the recent tragedy in Georgia, they stated that a lot of lives were saved because all they had to do was shut that door, and the door was automatically locked, and the person couldn't get in. So God forbid anything ever happens in any of our schools, but just wanted to keep that in mind in case we do have an opportunity to upgrade our doors or locks in our schools. That would be something I would love to see happen if we could do that.
Chair, I have a question for when you spoke about operations. A concern that I've heard, and I think it was a concern last year as well, but I'm hearing the same concerns, it's just it's not on our part and the lack of what we're doing, but the quality and care over the school day of our bathrooms in the school. I don't know if we, especially like at the elementary level, and I could ask our student rep how it is at the high school level, but just the overall, just some schools are worse than others. I know we can't monitor students in the restroom, but the quality and standard and care of the restrooms throughout the day as students are using them, it's not that good.
And I'll say, just to not speak for staff, but semi in their defense, it's difficult when you have one custodian in the morning monitoring all the restrooms.
Yeah, it's not what we're doing.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's difficult for them to do it. And I know some years ago, right before I joined the board, because we were having a hard time getting funding for it, they cut down operations staff as far as custodial staff. So and it hasn't been the same since then. So
I just was wondering, like, if it's I don't even know, like, I'm not, just a policy in the school, especially with younger kids and just their.
Let's say it's a poopatrator.
It is. But it's like, I mean, I've heard of instances at one particular school where they didn't know where the scent was coming from and it was getting in the grout, or another elementary school, like, it's just not sanitary. Like, and our custodial staff, to your point, they cannot keep constantly, and they should not have to keep constantly going in and cleaning, especially across our elementary schools. So if our students are not able to control or behavior in the restroom, I do think there needs to be some type of constraint on the amount of leeway that we're giving students. I don't know what the operational legal standpoint around that is, Dr. Bracy, but it's a problem in the elementary schools.
I don't know if there's anything that we can.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they.
I think that's a building issue.
Right.
It's a building issue.
I mean, it's a building issue.
It's a first violation.
I mean, and I say that it's a building issue because every building's going to handle it differently. I work at a high school where we still lock down bathrooms. The last 10 minutes of the day, the last 10 minutes of the class, the first 10 minutes of the class. We have hall duty stations that are outside of the restrooms just to kind of keep them moving. And I mean, it sounds elementary for a high school, but it was something that the high school had to put in to mitigate.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I think there's a lot of leeway given to our elementary students. You're saying high school, so yeah, it might be across the board, but I don't know, like, the impact of staff members in asking them to do more, but it's a problem.
At elementary, I don't know what you do for that. I don't see.
You don't. I mean, I think it's hard because you're letting, and it is building case by case, but letting students off by themselves, like just being more monitoring around the restroom time. I'm just bringing that up since it's the operation report an issue. I just think that's something we should consider because we have aging schools. We have, you know, it's hard to control. Like, we have the ventilation issues in some of our schools, so I just
Yeah,
think
I
it's
really, I mean, I'm not sure what Dr. Bracy can do. I know Dr. Whiteman has asked probably kind of, I mean, teachers are already asked to monitor the bathrooms when they can, but I'm not sure what else you can do. I mean, in reference to, you know, children, that's not bathroom.
Yeah, I know we gotta let them go.
I like the idea of what you said, Board Member Hines, just however y'all are implementing some type of time. I know it's constriction, but I'm hearing that it's an issue. And like, not even a school that one of my kids go to, but there was a scent issue in one of these schools, and they could not figure out where it was coming from, and that's what was happening.
One thing that you probably can do is ask them if they can give you a solution.
What do you mean?
That particular school.
That particular school.
No, I mean, but it's not just that school, it's multiple schools. They figured out the solution there and what was causing it, but it's not just one school, it's an issue, you guys, this
Is
issue.
this something that's continuous? Has it been happening years past?
Yeah, it happened last year. Yeah, I've heard about it last year, and the reason I'm thinking that they'll find their own way, but I'm not sure if it's known widespread like that. The cleanliness of our bathrooms and what students do and how they operate is an issue. Sorry, it's an uncomfortable subject, but I just.
We all go to the
Right,
bathroom. We all use
No, it's an uncomfortable subject for the fact that I know it's not something we can implement a policy for, but it is an issue in our schools, in some of our schools.
Amen.
I just to clarify what Board Member Thomas is saying.
Get it out.
Basically, it's poop-perpetrators in multiple schools. It's kids that are throwing poop on the wall. It's all on the toilet. And to me, a way to avoid that is like, I just feel like the teacher should be checking behind their class. That's the way to identify it, and that's not happening in certain schools, but it has been consistent. It happened last year. More than likely, it's the same person that's throwing poop on the wall and poop all over the bathroom. But I can't speak to multiple schools, but I know there is a particular school, and I feel like it could be identified if the teacher checked behind the class.
Well, that child go to my daycare because they do the same thing.
I mean, I guess that's something that Dr. Bracy can address.
That's a baby.
And it's
It
leadership
is.
team.
It is.
Yes.
I'm not, I mean,
Don't even touch it.
I don't know.
Don't touch it.
I mean,
It's an issue because it's an issue like when you go to school, like if kids are not the poopertrator, they don't want to have to, be in that environment, and they shouldn't have to. And our teachers also should not be having to clean up and monitor that. So I don't care if we identify the students that are doing it and they get some type of, contact back to their parent, guardian, then disciplinary action, because it was a problem last year and it's still a problem this year.
Okay. All right, well, we will have some conversation with the administration and see where it goes from there to see
Maybe
if
to
we can
implement something
identify.
across that they can, or some best practices or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I do know that.
I mean, that's a
in some of our
hazmat
schools-
situation.
In some of our schools, because of the age of the buildings and the pipes, there are some sewage issues that happen, in schools at times that need to be addressed, and they address them best, as best they can when they arise.
It's more so what Vice
Well, no,
Chair
I know
Atkinson
what you're
was
saying.
saying. Okay.
I think that's more of a leadership
At least
staff.
give the pipes a
It's
chance.
intentional.
Right.
It's intentional.
And we'll allow him to discuss it with principals and school leaders, and they can fix it. I don't want to take nothing.
We've been in school 3 weeks, haven't we? Okay. I think
Y'all just want to talk about.
I'm going to change the subject. Okay. I had 2 questions. Number 1, with the operations and technology, I'm going to say it one more time, and I'll say it until it's changed. Is the Simonsdale? Right. I mean, we've been round and I mean, we've been round and round, and we discussed it, and I was hoping that it was going to happen over the summer. And honestly, I can't remember when it was the last time that we talked about it, but it has been identified. It has been purchased or something like that. But I'm just trying to make sure that that's in the works because. Yeah, when it rains, it doesn't work.
I'm sorry, we did discuss it. Dane, you wanna?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dean, you and I could just have a conversation.
I'll share with everybody.
Sure.
Okay, so on the 5th, the equipment was received by the vendor.
Okay.
We're working with some folks, with colleagues in operations to get permitting. And that's where I'm working with Mr. Johnson, I believe, is who I'm working with on that.
Okay.
And as soon as.
So it's on the ground.
Just
It's in
received.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. And the second thing is going back to Chairman Patillo's comment about or whoever was talking about doors. Can we have a review of the safety plans for the buildings as far as what lockdown procedures look like, what the codes look like, so that we're just aware of what happens in a school when or if, and I want to say when or if, but when we do drills, what do those look like, and what phrases and what codes are we using? And I just think, in light of what's gone on, I think a review of safety plans.
Right. I think I'll let Adam look at it once we get it. Some things we can't.
You're gonna have to do that in closed.
Right.
Okay.
You can't say.
It exposes security vulnerabilities is the theory.
Okay.
So it's a closed session topic typically.
Okay.
There may be some general things that could be shared in an open session.
Okay.
Depending on what the feedback is from the administration and the security plans.
And what I'll ask, if you mind, if we can wait till the next work session.
That's fine.
And then we can do it maybe in a closed session, the next work session.
That's fine.
I think some of it involves like local law enforcement as well, and we don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, probably, yeah. That, we can do that.
Okay.
And also, one thing I did forget to say, that I know I had some councilmen ask me about it as well. We do have, and all of our outdoor football stadiums are now equipped with the open gate weapons detection system. That's at all of our outdoor football stadiums as well. All right. If we didn't have any more board reports at this time.
Can I say one thing? I'm sorry. I should have a curriculum and instruction report for you. However, I missed the meeting this month. Okay. Because we changed dates and we changed times, and by the time I got to my phone to call, because we started at 3 and my school dismisses at 3, so by the time I got to the call. So for those that were prepared and ready to present, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Life got in the way, and y'all know I love to do those meetings, so I look forward to it, but I just wanted to publicly apologize to anybody who was like, man, where's Sarah? No, I'm kidding. They were like, oh, she ain't coming, we good.
I'm sure they won't mad.
I was so pooped.
Are there any more remarks or comments or concerns?
You're welcome.
Consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, man.